Fresh beauty opens one's eyes whenever it is really seen, but the very abundance and completeness of the common beauty that besets our steps and prevents it from being absorbed and appreciated. It is a good thing, therefore, to make short excursions now and then to the bottom of the sea among dolls and coral, or up among the clouds on mountain tops or in balloons, or even to creep like worms into dark holes and caverns underground, not only to learn something of what is going on in those out-of-the-way places, but to see better what the sun sees on our return to common everyday beauty. Our way from Murphy's to the cave lay across a series of picturesque moony ridges in the Chappelle region between the brown foothills and forests. A flowery stretch of our rolling hill waves breaking here and there into a kind of rocky foam on the higher summits, and sinking into delightful bosky hollows and bowered with vines. The day was a fine, rolling specimen of California summer, pure sunshine unshaded most of the time by a single cloud. As the sun rose higher, the heated air began to flow in tremulous waves from every southern slope. The sea breeze that usually comes up the foothills at the season was cooling on its wings, was scarcely perceptible. The birds were assembled beneath leafy shade or made short, languid flights in search of food. All those the majestic buzzard with broad wings outspread, he sailed the warm air unerringly from ridge to ridge, seeming to enjoy the fervid sunshine like a butterfly. Squirrel, too, whose spicy ardor no heat or cold may abate, were nutting among the pines, and the innumerable hosts of the insects kingdom were throbbing and wavering unwearied as sunbeams. This bushy berry-bearing region used to be a deer and bear pasture, but since the disturbances of the cold period, these finer animals have almost wholly disappeared. Here also once roamed the mastodon and elephants, whose bones are found entombed in the river gravels and beneath thick folds of lava. Toward noon, as we were riding slowly over the bank in Bray, basking in the unfeverish sun heat, we witnessed the upheaval of a new mountain range, a sierra of clouds abounding in landscapes that truly sublime and beautiful. If only we had a mind to think so, and eyes to see, as the more ancient rocky sierra beneath it, with its forests and waterfalls reminding us that it is a lower world of caves, though also there is an upper world of clouds. Huge bossy cumuli developed with astonishing rapidity from mere buds, swelling with an invisible motion into colossal mountains and piling higher in long massive ranges, peak beyond peak, dome over dome, with many a picturesque valley and shadowy caves between, while the dark firs and pines of the upper benches of the Sierra were projected against their pearl bosses with exquisite clearness of outline. These cloud mountains vanished in the azure as quickly as they were developed, leaving no detritus, but they were not witless, surreal, or interesting on this account. The more enduring hills over which we rode were vanishing as surely as they, only not so fast, a difference which is great or small according to the standpoint from which it is contemplated. At the bottom of every dell we found little homesteads embosomed and wild brush and vines. Wherever the recession of the hills left patches of arable ground, these secluded flats are settled mostly by Italians and Germans, who plant a few vegetables and grapevines at odd times, while their main business is mining and prospecting. In spite of all the natural beauty of these dwell cabins, they can hardly be called homes. They are only a better kind of camp, gladly abandoned wherever the hoped-for gold harvest has been gathered. There is an air of profound unrest and melancholy about the best of them. Their beauty is thrust upon them by exuberant nature apart from which they are a few logs and boards rudely joined and without either ceiling or floor. A rough fireplace with corresponding cooking utensils with shelf bed and stool. The ground about them is strewn with battered prospecting pans and picks, sluice boxes and quartz specimens from many a ledge indicating the trend of the owner's hard lives. The ride from Murphy's to the cave is scarcely 2 hours long, but we lingered among the quartz ledges and banks of dead river gravel until long after the noon. At length, emerging from a narrow-throated gorge, a small house came in sight set in a thicket of fig trees at the base of a limestone hill. That, said my guide, pointing to the house, is Cave City. And that cave is in that real hill. Arriving at the one house city, we were boisterously welcomed by 3 drunken men who had come to town to hold a spree. The mistress of the house tried to keep order and in reply to our inquiries told us that the cave guide was then in the cave with a party of ladies. And must we wait until he returns? We asked. No, that was unnecessary. We might take candles and go into the cave alone, provided we shouted from time to time so as to be found by the guide. And we're careful not to fall over the rocks or into the dark pools. Accordingly, taking a trail from the house, we were led around the base of the hill to the mouth of the cave. A small inconspicuous archway mossy around the edges and shaped like the door of a water oval nest. And we had no appreciable hint or advertisement of the grandeur of the many crystals chambers within. Lighting our candles, which seemed to have no illuminating power in the thick darkness, we groped our way onward as best we could along narrow lanes and chambers within alleys from chamber to chamber, around rustic columns and heaps of fallen rocks, stopping to rest now and then in particular beautiful places. Very all closed, furnished with admirable varieties of shelves and tables, and round boxy stools covered with sparkling crystals. Some of the corridors were muddy and plodding along these we seemed to be in the streets of Fort Perry Village in springtime. Then we could come to some handsome marble stairways conducting right and left into the upper chambers, and ranged above 1 or 3 or 4 stories high, floors, ceilings, and walls lavishly decorated with innumerable crystalline forms. After thus wandering exploringly and alone for a mile or so, fairly enchanted, a murmur of voices and a gleam of light betrayed the approach of the guide and his party, from whom, when they came up, we received a most hearty and natural stare. As we stood half concealed in a side recess among stalagmites, I ventured to ask the dripping, crouching company how they had enjoyed their saunter, anxious to learn how the strange sunless scenery of the underworld had impressed them. Ah, it's nice, it's splendid, they all replied and echoed. The bridal chamber back here is just glorious. This morning we came down from the Calvera's big tree grove, and the big trees are nothing to it. After making the curious comparison, they hastened sunward, the guide promising to join us shortly on the bank of a deep pool. While we were to wait for them, this is a charming little lakelet of unknown depths, never yet stirred by a breeze, and its eternal claim excites the imagination even more profoundly than the silvery lakes of the glacier, rimmed with meadows and snow and reflecting sublime mountains. Our guide A jolly, rollicking Italian led us into the heart of the hill, up and down, right and left, from chamber to chamber, and more magnificent, all glitter like a glacier cave with icicles like stalactites and stalagmites combined in forms of indescribable beauty. We were shown once a large room that was occasionally used as a dancing hall, another that was used as a chapel, with a natural pulpit and crosses and pews, sermons in every stone, where priests had said mass. Mass saying is not so generally developed in connection with natural wonders as dancing. One of the first conceits excited by the giant sequoias was to cut one of them down and dance on its stump. We also have seen dancing in the spray of Nigeria, dancing in the famous Bower Cave above Coulterville, and now where have I seen so much dancing as in Yosemite? A dance on the inaccessible South Dome would likely follow the making of an easy way to the top of it. It was delightful to witness here the infinite deliberation of nature and the simplicity of her methods in the production of such mighty results. Such perfect repose combined with restless, enthusiastic energy, through cold and bloodless as a landscape of polar ice building was going on in the dark with incessant activity. The archways and ceilings were everywhere hung with down-grown crystals, like inverted groves of leafless saplings, some of them large, others delicately attuned, each tipped with a single drop of water, like the terminal bud of a pine tree. The only appreciable sounds were the dripping and tinkling of water falling into the pools, or faintly plashing on the crystal floors. In some places, the crystal decorations are arranged in gracefully flowing folds, deeply plicated, like stiff silken drapery. And other straight lines of the ordinary stalactite forms were combined with reference to size and tone in a regularly graduated system, like the strings of a harp with musical tones corresponding thereto. And on these stone harps we played by striking the crystal strikes with a stick. The delicious liquid tones they gave forth seemed perfectly divine as they sweetly whispered and wavered through the majestic halls and died away in faintest cadence. The music of fairyland. Here we lingered and reveled, rejoicing to find so much music in so many silence, so much splendor in darkness, so many mansions in the depths of the mountains, buildings ever in the process of construction, yet ever finished, developing from perfection to perfection, profusion without overabundance, every particle, visible or invisible in glorious motion, marching to the music of the spheres in a region regarded as the abode of eternal stillness and death. The outer chambers of mountains caves are frequently selected as homes by wild beasts. In the Sierra, however, they seem to prefer homes and hiding places in the chaparral and in these shelving precipices, as I have never seen their tracks in any of the caves. This is a far more remarkable because, notwithstanding the darkness and oozing water, there is nothing uncomfortably cellar-like or spectral about them. When we emerged into the bright landscape of the sun, everything looked brighter, and we felt our faith in nature's beauty strengthened, and saw more clearly that beauty is universal and immortal, above, beneath, on land and sea, mountain and plain, in heat and cold, light and darkness.